Good morning and good afternoon and good evening, depending on whenever and wherever you're tuning in. This daily Dharma is going to be a little bit different than our usual. First of all, my name is Dina. Thank you so much for joining. Special welcome if you're new. And in the spirit of extreme inspiration this morning, I was on my YouTube feed and I follow a few different types of content, and two different videos really inspired me. I wasn't able to see the entire broadcast of the one on the solar radiation and the EMFs, electromagnetic emissions, and the plasma ejections that are coming, coronal mass ejections, all these other things that are coming from our sun. And over the last several months, you'll see many factors that they measure have been somewhat static, and then all of a sudden you'll see these extreme spikes, some of them remarkably extreme, as in like setting some record trends, especially when you look at the bigger cycles too. So then the second video, I watched the entire thing, is about the physics of basically our lives and how the fractal universe is actually alive. It's all conscious matter kind of nesting together and interacting. It's a universe teeming with life. And I think that the video, I'll definitely link it below. It was a Dan Winter podcast with a bunch of different guest speakers, but they were interviewing a gentleman that I just became aware of today, and suddenly his name is eluding me. It'll come up later. It's something common here, but again, it will be linked below. And they were talking about a measurement tool that he was able to develop, and all of these concepts are so incredible, such as specifically the way Dan Winter specifies in areas such as like how consciousness is either self-ordering and self-perpetuating in that recursive energetic flow, denoting the life and the growth cycle, or if spirit is in the degenerative state. And he talks about how consciousness can be mapped and how the importance of embodiment is crucial to then our ability to die well. So there's all kinds of content within the portal of his YouTube channel if you guys want to go there for a deeper understanding. It's a lot of great content, but it takes a little bit of focus because it's a lot of concepts, at least for me, because I am not a physicist, but it fascinates me. And so I have literally set my code deck because I'm not sure how to speak about the physics of it, but it continues to be channeled through me. And so the way that I understand it sometimes is so energetic that then I had to meditate on it and pull it in the way that I wanted to somewhat express this to you guys. So I hope you're down for this. And the messages from that video will come through as I'm talking about this. So this is the Sacred Geometry code card deck, Sacred Geometry of the Earth Activations Oracle deck. And so what keeps coming through me in my channel here is about our ability to nest appropriately within the flow of Mother Earth, being in the flow with the material. And in the podcast, they were talking about how the nesting frequencies of life, you can even see this. Let's use the solar system, for example. They show the sun not stationary, but as itself having a certain trajectory or pathway through space, and perhaps a bit of gravitational, centrifugal, whatever you call that, the vortex in the spin motion that's going on. And so it creates gravity. It has its own field. And that's where we have those emissions coming through. And then you'll see how each of the orbiting planets, so to speak, is actually in a corkscrew manner in their own gravitational spin and their own pathway. And so it becomes the smallest element, and then it pans out into all of these various orbits having nested frequencies in one another. And there, many of them are shown as different placements along the so-called charted longitudinal as well. And if you know the caduceus, that medical symbol, sometimes Hermes staff, where you see those intercrossing serpents, this is one depiction of the way that the spiral form, if you were to look at it like the helix model of your DNA top down, you start to see those crisscrossing points. And you can chart this as various full spherical donut shaped, that toroidal field that happens with each of the planets nested along this central spine. And that central center point, the emptiness in the center there, is like the hub of the wheel that is spinning around that central, perhaps 0 point field, where at that moment of torque at the center, you'll see like the pine cones kissing imagery. If you chart it out with sacred geometry, you can see how different people have attempted to draw this out, and many different renditions of the drawings of these elements are charted out through that video too. And they were really talking about how it's almost the point of ecstatic union between supposed apparently different forces, but all nested within that central focus. So they are saying that that common thread, and we'll see that in the tarot often as that karmic thread, that red thread that connects all consciousness throughout time and space, is the ability to nest harmonically within that divine trajectory. And I want to pause there and get on to this part. So here I'm using the whole entire deck, so you'll see the numbers, but they're not going to come in order. So Earth is in this channeling here specifically representative of the dark matter, the ultimate potentiality, the Tao itself. It's the vessel that contains consciousness, perhaps, or you could see the Tao as the opposite as well, but it's both. It's the entirety. And so I've started here with Earth as the basis, the salt of the earth, the dust of the cosmic forces that becomes self-aware, perhaps. And you can see how this has this whole deck will have sacred geometry in it. And you can see how this represents the interlocking star-shaped triangles, one up and one down, sometimes referred to as tetragrammatron, if I'm not mistaken. And another depiction of a word for God. It also shows in several decks on the back of the Hierophant in the tarot. I've chosen to follow Earth, the dust, with belief, and this is the self-awareness. The point of self-awareness is the array that comes from the center out, and you'll see this star form in this, if I get it just right. where there's it's more like that old, is it the Bohr's model of the atom here? And to me, this seems to indicate the embodiment of consciousness, the beginning of the differentiation process where spirit takes shape. So where our thought and the materials and resources around begets matter. And this is the universal level first, that larger level where perhaps earth is formed. This is just a channeling symbol language, so stay with me. So Gaia, this belief and the self-awareness, earth becomes conscious, and this is where earth has feelings. The frequency of Gaia reminds us that we are infinitely connected to one another, just as we are to our great mother and to the universe that birthed us all. So we are little gelled together packets of minerals and salts and water and alchemical manifestations of the earth itself. And if you look at any waveform, you will see that harmonic octaves are then the longer cycles will show very very subtle dips and long waves. Then you'll see, as we get more specific, more to the localized levels, such as human consciousness within the earth consciousness, you would then see earth would be the longer frequency, and then the individual's fluctuations are going up and down throughout that, so to speak. And then when you can take, the collective consciousness would be in between that, because it's representing an average and a fluctuation based on many. And then you can chart the individuals within that as even more excited waveform, I want to say, representing a more specific fluctuation pattern. But if we look at where all of these elements, well, first of all, that is referred to as two things. It's a braiding, they call it super braiding, where you have many things braiding into each other. And then where you'll see the convergence of many factors, that 0 point energy is that spin vortex energy where the pine cones are kissing again, where the energy is converging and then separating again and converging again. And this is that excitability, that passion point of spirit becoming matter. So again, here we have this consciousness process where the earth becomes conscious and begins to self-organize its systems and resources within its body of earth into multiple seeds with water, earth, air, sky, fire, spirit, ether. This formation becomes self-aware. And then in self-awareness, there's the supposed duality process here, where we have this. If this was the top-down view of a toroidal flow, you can see how in the center here, the impulse, they show this better in the video, but when it's coming out and around and on the inside too, you kind of see that the energy is also in these circle, for lack of a better term, coming around. And that's where we're seeing this infinity symbol here. This eyeball to me represents, and so therefore what? If earth is sentient, what will I do with this energy as this big earth, Mother Gaia? I'm going to birth something, right? And here's that decision point, figuring out, soul time is the self-reflection on what comes next, the discernment process happening on a very huge level. And the discernment process here, we almost need to pause and talk about sound, vibration, creating matter. So the music of the spheres is kind of how it's coming through, but the earth itself has a hum, and there is a measurable frequency of the earth, and it's eluding me right now, but I believe many of you will know it. I think it's 528 hertz. But anyways, that's the harmonic, perfect sound of the earth, which is the precursor of life. It's the sound of the womb of Mother Gaia, which brings us to the divine feminine. Within all life, there is an X chromosome, and we are all birthed from the Great Mother and our biological mother in that way. And I'm seeing the imagery of the X, and at the center point, the crossing, the chromosome that looks like an X, with that center of the X being the cross between mother and offspring. The nesting frequency. Frequency of Divine Mother supports our receptive, nurturing, and soft side, allowing it to express itself openly and helping us to connect to our intrinsic understanding of our connection to all of creation. If it were only so easy once we become aware of our predispositions here in this way. I want to just interject that. Divine Masculine. So I know that the patriarchal model is atom, quantum atom, begets life, but I believe that it's not the masculine that comes first, just because, well, you can believe whatever you like to believe, but in physics, it seems to be that seems different. Moving on, I also learned from this video today that you can determine the likelihood of a male or a female child based on the alkalinity or acidity pH of the womb, the uterus itself. And apparently alkalinity corresponds more to the female gendered baby, and acidity more to the seed than the vessel, interestingly enough. So the container for life is usually slightly alkaline. So following masculine and feminine, I chose to move into the life cycle. So passion. I started with passion because it's primal and it doesn't always have to do with love, romantic or otherwise. And so passion comes next. It's the desire nature. It doesn't always have to do with procreation. It can do with many different things. What magnetizes us creates momentum and activates, catalyzes our forward reach, the assertion of the masculine. Now, they said several other things with masculine and feminine in this. If they need to come out, they will. Conception. So then passion becomes into conception, and many factors obviously influence our ability to conceive of whether it's an idea, a behavior, a self identity, persona, or literal life. And we give life to things even like our projects. So whether we're masculine or feminine, having both of these polarities within us allows all of us to be the creators and the sculptors of our reality by nesting within the frequency of the mother. So fertility, this is our ability to be nourished by our environment, by our internalized process, and by the alchemy that begot us, which houses not only the earth and the condition of the earth, be her state toxic and polluted, or clear and perfect. And then the collective vibrational resonance, mentally, emotionally, all of these things are this alchemical soup, this cauldron of creation, where these various passions are conceiving of the quality of life based on our fertility and the process of fertility. If one were to become pregnant with an idea or a child, the ability for the sustainer to promote further life is more than physical. It's very energetic process. So here's the dynamic of all of those factors and the ability for life to spontaneously take root and to thrive. So whether or not the seed quickens based on so many different factors. And then what happens based on pH, based on the resonance of frequencies and sounds as the earth is moving in the quantum realms, everything is moving. This begets the emergence of life, an emergence of consciousness coming to the forefront. This realization of life is then leads to this transition. You see this, I believe this is called a heliacal, something like that, structure where there's that swaying arm where you see, I want to call it lag time, as you see that trajectory of the corkscrew motion and the embedded frequencies. You can see how all of these little toroidal spots here are representing all of these various different energy fields connected by their nodal, their recursive flow and their ability to nest within the conduit, the filament, which is like a container for many nested looping frequencies. It's our ability to kind of snake through, and this represents not only our own Merkaba Kundalini essence nested within our own centripetal force, but also to take in and make use of the frictional energy of the counterintuitive, counterproductive seeming friction of our environment, that centrifugal force. So this transition here is the ability for life to actually make it through the portal of creationism into the what we then call in human the baby from the zygote. Perhaps it's like from seed potential and fertilization into the actual development of the heart, and then the structures of the organs and tissues and the DNA. Our DNA is nestled within the Earth's DNA. It's the miracle of life and the coherence ability of our own heart, even as mother child, to decide to inhabit and embody a space. There's an empty vessel, and can spirit actually take up resonance within that vessel of the earthly container here? And can the spirit actually come in fully and seat in there? Is that belief realized here with that miracle of life? Then we get into the chakra. This is fast forwarding. Let's talk about it more in terms of developmental. The root, our ability to root into the mother and gain nourishment, our ability to feel nurtured and emotionally responded to with our sacral chakra. Then into the ability to impact our environment, gain confidence, courage, creative juice from interacting with the environment. And how does this come back? What's the response that we receive? Are we met with approval for reaching out and activating ourselves, or are we subdued, controlled with power and whatever else, or lack of nurturance? The heart space offers us belonging on a different level, and it's actually ruled by the element of air, not water. So the heart is very mental. in that way. Then we have our ability to communicate our truth and wisdom, and to believe in different things and express the totality of our experience, and to feel that sense of connectivity in that way, to search and research forth. The third eye chakra activates our ability to be intuitive and connected, and on that level, recognizing the nodal connection between the collective forces, and that with nature and our inner nature connects our chakra system intuitively with the chakra system of the earth. And because we're all following that trajectory, filamental pathway, our pathology is able to reach and project our consciousness and seek for answers and download them from the Akashic record and the accumulated ancestral wisdom of Mother Earth, who is like that tree in the Avatar series, which is incredible. And the earth has her own chakras that we're nested within as well. So our ability to perceive of the totality of our experience unlocks a new quantum level, a new octave of healing what we've been told, and giving way to the divine flow. It's the higher knowledge of not knowing. Then we have compassion, develops the empathy for others, because we're all connected. And surpassing this level can be quite hard, right? It requires awareness and self-acknowledgement and accountability and forgiveness, difficult things. So the development of empathy and compassion can really deepen our ability to connect with romantic love in a different way, falling in love with the process and not losing for the loss of perceiving suffering. Just broadly. Coherence, understanding, that brings us that romantic love. And that's when we turn our chemistry into alchemy. We become the divine magicians. And that's tantric journey right there, where we can be that torque in the center. I'm going to get cut off here in a little bit. If I need to check in with the second video, that's the moment of connectivity where we are the alchemist. That's where we gather the resources from above and below, within and without, and become the hermetic master here. And we actually activate our Merkaba field through our ability to become our own mother, father, our own Hieros Gamos, masculine, feminine. And there's that expanded field. The more critical mass and pressure and centripetal clarity, the tighter our spin, and the less our projected self, the more that we are centered and aligned within this frequency and flow, the greater our magnetic capacity, and the greater our literal gravity. So we become gravitational fields ourself, and that's what leadership is. Felt like a mic drop or something. Not to be all on myself. Do we work with spirit? So how we use that field and that influence and power and authority is how we either work with spirit or with temptation and lower vibrational attachment energies. It offers us up a real need for protection here. So mind your potentials here. You don't go out seeking if you don't believe in things and don't know about things that could happen. I'm not trying to be a fearmonger here, but there are attachments that would love to just piggyback on the back of a powerhouse lighthouse. So armor up with some type of faith and belief, and ask for the light to embody you. And if you follow the emerald tablets, go through the spheres and the circles, not through the angles and dark corners. You'll get that if you get that. Integration of our energy, that masculine feminine, creates the change that then takes us to that higher octave. When we can invoke delight and not suffering, we have mastered the process of life begetting life. The more aligned we can become with the joy and ecstasy moment, that 0 point energy of the kissing pine cones, it's the ecstatic release of life. That's why the orgasm is called the mini death. That puts us in divine remembrance with the Akash and ancestral wisdom. But again, we need to be very careful when we approach that 0 point energy, because what reaches full 0 point and completely gets to that center has no further reason to exist in form and is ascended matter. Theorizing. Communication, our ability to then be that lighthouse of delight to enlighten others, is our ability to share the process, to expand the message, and to relay the light of life for others. It's like we are the divine conduits of light when we are the light bringers and the inner sons and daughters, but solar sun in the world. This allows us so much more in prosperity on so many different levels. Spiritual and material abundance is ours when we can switch from scarcity mentality and empower our delight and abundance mentality through gratitude, acceptance, and literally delight. So empowering our field, our process, and the world itself is our magical, authoritative process of what are we really doing here and how are we going to approach it as personal to us. But this is us developing our magical authority to be forerunners for the universal love that is birthing on this planet right now. That 44 is angelic presence and protection in our lives. I have a couple other code cards here that I wanted to join in, so I'm going to do a part 2. Tune in for that if this message has caught your attention. Thank you so much.